Celtic find a way to beat St Mirren with a late goal for the second time this season. This time it was Callum McGregor who struck late in Paisley. 94 minutes were on the clock when he scored the goal to definitely get us out of jail. We're here today with Practical CBT sponsoring the show. Quick practical workouts for your mental health. Scott, I'm not particularly sure we deserve to win, but we'll take it anyway.
It's going to be one of those crucial 3 points that we need to accumulate if we're to be in the running at the end of the year. So somehow they found a way. Callum McGregor steps up yet again, and thankfully, because I also thought that even if we pinched a point out of that, it was probably more than what we deserved. If we want to go right back to the start, I mean, I think you could probably wipe out the first 4 to 5 minutes. What we couldn't get to grips was the midfield. Like McGregor would get the ball off the defence and then there was nothing forward of him. And that played out for the entire first half, essentially. And St Mirren, unlucky not to be 2-0 up at the break, if we're honest about it. Yeah. Thank God for Callum McGregor.
Yeah, I mean, how many times we said that over the years? I just thought it was a struggle from the outset, that it's just like blindingly obvious. And this is not news to anyone, but we just lack quality, kind of all over the pitch. I think we've got like a good group of like honest players at the moment. It's just such a struggle to create chances, and it's been like that for like virtually all of this season. Like you kind of question it, how are Celtic actually going about things? Or okay, we move the ball maybe from side to side a little bit, but who's the guy who's going to go and make something happen in that final third? And a lot of the time it kind of falls on Sebastian Tinekti. He still looks to me like the most likely and the most kind of lively player. I think he's the only guy that when he gets the ball, I kind of, sit upright and I'm kind of going, right, okay, something could happen here. But even Tinekti, I'll be honest, he's starting to kind of frustrate me a little bit because I think he's flattering to deceive a bit. And I think games are starting to pass him by where he's maybe not doing much. He had that one shot in the first half, but at least he's kind of looks a bit likely when he gets the ball. I just think like Dyson, it's not his game, is it? He's kind of Dyson's effective when you're getting him in behind, and we've seen that, I guess, in some recent matches like Rangers, for example, at Hampden. But in a game like tonight where there's not really space for him to run in behind on a smaller pitch at St Mirren, it's just not his game at all. He's not going to get the ball and go past players and really make something happen. Maybe more likely to do that on the left, certainly not going to do it on the right. Johnny Kenny, again, can't question his commitment, his effort, but he's just lacking in quality. So that's your front three. The midfield just really struggled in that game as well. The amount of times they kind of gave the ball away, that was Martin O'Neill's biggest frustration. Speaking after the game, he said our failure to be able to keep the ball.
You're right. That is where we find ourselves. I mean, you can see where we're at when the subs start coming on in the second half. Like we're replacing a defender with a midfielder. McGowan takes up the right wing for the entire second half. That's not a position he generally plays.
Balik-Wisha sits on the bench and Yang sat on the bench at that point, which is interesting, isn't it? Bringing a centre mid on rather than wingers.
Yeah, but I mean, McGowan, we needed a spark, and I think McGowan gives us that nearly every time. Whenever he's called upon in a tricky situation, he offers you something for at least a period of time, and something generally happens. And when he came on, we had 2 attacks in forward areas, which we'd struggled to even do, I think, 1 in the first half, if we're honest about it. I don't think we had a shot on target in the first half. We had 1 for the whole game. The second one was McGregor's goal. So there was nothing happening in that final third. McGowan brought his presence, his energy, and he's a smart player. So he was getting into areas which stretched that field in the second half and made it long and made the St Mirren defence have to work because they were sitting pretty at half time there.
Yeah, I mean that McGowan he's lively, he does make things happen. he was still, overhitting passes. There was one late on in the game where I think it's Donovan maybe in the overlap, and he just passes it out for a goal kick. And at that point, you're just thinking, this isn't going to happen today. And like in the past, we've been like goalless in these games under Brendan Rodgers, under Ange Postecoglou, and you felt something was happening. And I'm a bit of an optimist as well, so I always feel like we'll get that one big chance. But I didn't today. Like I think even when we got to stoppage time, there was a period where we have a goal kick and we're just passing it around the back, and you're watching the clock and it's like 91, 92 minutes. You've got a couple of minutes left and you're going, guys, do you know this is level here? Do you know we're like in a title race, X number of points behind Hearts, and we need to go and try and win this game? Yet they were just knocking the ball from side to side. And at that point, I just thought, this is just going to peter out to a 0-0 draw. We're going to have all of this negativity, just increasing, I guess, with drop points and this, terrible away record we've had in recent times continuing. And like that's what we would have been talking about were it not for just one guy picking the ball up, having the kind of authority at that stage of the game, knowing it's the last chance to take the shot on, which I think is the first thing you have to say, because a lesser player probably just passes the ball out to the wide, shirks responsibility and thinks he'll feed it into the box. McGregor thought, it's now or never basically. I either score or I don't, and if I blaze it over the bar, I probably get pelters, but there's a chance I can score this. And the strike itself is brilliant, but it's just that one moment just kind of changes everything. I mean, are we right to feel like it's changed everything? Because it is a huge moment, but it doesn't kind of undo the concerns that we have about the team at the moment.
Yeah, I don't think it changes anything. Like you said, it's a big moment, a very crucial moment. But the problems and the reservations that we have with this squad, they remain. So it's a big test going through this week. I think Hibs won today.
So I've got the results here. So it was Dundee United 0, Falkirk 3, Hibs 2, Dundee 0, Kilmarnock 1, Motherwell 3, and Rangers 2, Livingston 1.
And we have trouble winning at Easter Road. Much like we've had difficulty at St Mirren. So it doesn't get any easier, and I don't see where the improvement comes from, except for the players that were there. The improvement has to come from within rather than anyone that we can bring in at present. So, yeah, we lock these 3 points away and we move on. But thankfully we get 3 points because both Hibs and Rangers, they're winning games at the moment and they're snapping at our heels. So one step's fatal for us, I think, at the moment. We can't misstep anywhere.
Yeah, especially when you're chasing Hearts at the top as well, and on top of all that. So yeah, Callum McGregor without doubt the best goal scored by a Scottish player this week. I think we can comfortably say that. He's got a real habit of doing it, and I should say brilliant images from Gio, who provides the photos for this channel of the brilliant celebrations after McGregor's goal. But yeah, a real habit of doing this clutch, as the Americans would call him. Remember he goal he scored at Pittodrie for under Ange late on. That was the one I thought of straight away when he scored against St Mirren. That was I think I looked earlier, that was like 87th minute at Pittodrie, so a bit earlier, but that was in a dire game, a poor performance, and he just dragged us to 3 points just himself with a brilliant goal. Obviously, we've got the recent example that we both remember from the pub against Rangers at Hampden, which again is a huge moment. And even at Tynecastle a couple of weeks ago, I know it's a goal that's forgotten about because we lost that game comfortably, but that was a really well-worked goal that he finished off early in that game. So I don't think McGregor's playing particularly well at the moment. You might disagree, but at least he's coming up with these, absolutely huge moments.
Look, his performances probably aren't to the level that we've come to expect, but I think that's probably highlighted more because of how the whole team performance is, and that the midfield that we much vaunted in the preseason is underperforming. So I think whilst there will be performances that we can rightly be critical of McGregor, I think if the two midfielders aren't performing their role ahead of him, then it's probably a bit more scrutiny that he should get. because I just don't think I mean that first half, Engels he was a spectator on the field. Like he was, from what I could see, he was running into areas where he's never going to receive a pass. And there are occasions where he probably could have put himself in a position to receive a pass, but he would let someone else get it. He wasn't offering anything defensively to try and get the ball back because they were really stingy in that midfield. We had to play around them. We couldn't play through because we had nothing. Hatate starts to play his game in the midfield in the last 5 or so minutes of the first half. He was much improved in the second. But yeah, he just offered nothing. So I think if you haven't got an outlet pass from the back, whether it goes through McGregor or from the wing backs, then the service going forward is not going to produce anything because someone's letting the team down. I don't know what it is with Arnie Engels. Like, there's a player there, I'm sure, and we've seen shades of it. We just haven't seen it in a long time. So I don't know if it's an attitude thing or a confidence thing,
Personality.
or he's just struggling with. Yeah, maybe it's his personality, or maybe he's just struggling. Like he's a player that is a bit of a front runner. When the team's up, he's up.
That's what I mean.
Sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if he starts midweek, but there's not a lot of confidence in the entire midfield group that we can be confident that we'll get good performances consistently.
So that's midweek. The team. What about the manager? Do we have a new manager for Thursday night against Feyenoord? I mean, I personally feel like it's reached the point where we need a new manager in. I know there's reservations over everything at the moment. Obviously, the off-pitch toxicity at the club, and clearly, the on-field stuff's difficult at the moment. The squad is struggling. That's before you even get to the injuries, which are a huge factor. Like the injuries we've got right now, real long-term injuries to key players, real key players are it's a really tough situation for a new manager to come into. And I get the reservations about a new manager coming into that. I just get the impression maybe a little bit of that kind of new manager bounce we got under Martin O'Neill is maybe slightly, fading away a little bit. Now, it might just be that tonight was the first game back after the international break, and I'm sure if you went back over the years, our record in those games, while we might win a lot of them, generally you don't see a real top level of performance after the break for all the various, factors associated with that. But I just wonder if maybe that real kind of, as I say, that manager bounce we got when Martin O'Neill came in after Brendan Rodgers left, have we maybe kind of exercised most of that? And for me, it's now time to get a new manager in. And while it might not solve everything, and I still, even with a new manager, have concerns over this next period with all of these injuries and everything else that's going on. At least it gives us all a bit of a focus and something to get behind, and clearly for the players it would do that as well. So the board need to get this sorted. It's going to be Wilfried Nancy. They need to get this sorted, tomorrow, Tuesday, and get him on that plane going to Rotterdam on Wednesday morning. That's how I feel about it. And as I say, it's not a perfect solution to everything. I think there's a fair chance that we see more of these kind of performances under the new manager, because clearly the issues run a lot deeper than just the manager, clearly. But yeah, I think we all need that. We all need to buy into something here, and hopefully that happens.
Yeah, I was hoping, but not expecting that we would have had a new manager in over the break, because that just made sense. Yeah, I hope he comes in this week. I've grown to be less apprehensive about Wilfried Nancy being the manager. A bit of research does do wonders. And I was finding guys who do analysis of football and that sort of thing, who a year ago were saying Wilfred Nancy needs to go to the next level because he's that good. So that filled me with a lot of confidence in him, because it's not recent stuff just because it's a talking point right now. This was a year ago. People were breaking things down and explaining how good this manager is in their eyes. So that gave me a lot more confidence. So the sooner we get him in, the better. Whenever a manager comes into a squad, there's going to be a period of time where there'll be inconsistencies because there's a new playing style, new ways of communicating, all that sort of stuff. So you'll have some bumps along the road. And I feel like if we delay that further and further, then that's just going to hurt the team longer term. Because if we don't get him in till mid-December, say, like he's got 2 weeks to prepare, and the window opens, and we're going to be unprepared for it. And we can't be unprepared again for a third window straight or a fourth window straight. We can't afford to have it because the season will get away from us pretty quick in this period. So, yeah, hopefully they can, those that make the decisions can stop attacking the support and actually get on with running a football club, which they clearly haven't done for an extended amount of time now. And yeah, we welcome him, Wilfred Nancy, through the door.
Yeah, because I mean, as I say, I think there's going to be bumps on this road. Clearly, with like any new manager coming in, there are even more so with, as I keep saying, everything, even away, even if you say, all the off-field stuff doesn't feed onto the pitch, even if you make that point, which I think's, clearly debatable, like coming in and you're missing your first choice right back, you're missing your first choice centre back, you're missing a first choice winger in Jota, you're missing your first choice striker in Kelechi Iheanacho, Marcelo Sarachi will hopefully be back relatively soon. Callum Osmond, who, probably third choice striker, but has looked pretty good. You're missing him for a period of time. You don't have a right winger, by the way, Wilfred Nancy. We just didn't bother signing one, so work with that. So it's like it's a tough situation, but I'd like to think generally the Celtic support would understand that, and clearly we need the team to keep winning games. When he comes in, he needs to get off to a winning start. But I think the European stuff, nobody's like expecting anything from Europe at all. I think he won't be judged in Europe. And I think as long as, good managers, which I think Wilfred Nancy is a good manager, they make an impact, even if they've got these kind of real issues with the squad or whatever else. He'll find a way to make an impact, I think. And as long as we can see that impact being made and we can see signs of what's happening, and as long as we're winning the vast majority of games, I think the odd slip up will clearly be tolerated given everything that's going on. I think we'd all settle for that. I think, Martin O'Neill's amazing and what he's done coming back is incredible. I just think it's difficult when he's interim manager, and even the fact he's been asked about his future after every press conference, like that's not what we need right now. We need kind of long term at the club, and Martin O'Neill, for all his amazingness, can't really give us that at the moment, and the players will kind of be feeling that as well. They need to be held to account properly by a new manager who's going to be there for a long period.
Yeah, that's something that I've been having the thoughts in the back of my mind, where it's like at some point as a player, hearing your manager go, well, I might not be here next week or next game, or I might not be here tomorrow. Like the really good teams, they play for their manager, and it would become increasingly more difficult sort of having that in you to help drive in a game when the chips are down, that let's do it for the gaffer, right? Like one more push, like that's going to get hard, because it's like, well, it doesn't matter what I do because the new guy's going to come in, like that'll play in some players' minds, especially if they want to get out the door as well, and we know that there's a few that probably want that. So just get the business done. I mean, we were saying this in preseason too. Get the business done. Like, why does it take so long?
In their defence, there is no transfer window for managers, so they can just take as long as they want.
Exactly. Then is it about the club or is it about themselves? And I think we saw yesterday it's about themselves. So, yeah, you go.
One word answer. Do we have a new manager in the dugout for Thursday night?
No.
Yeah, I mean,
I want him to be there, but no.
Yeah,
I don't think they're going to do it.
I think I probably
They'll put out some other statement, I'm sure.
probably agree with you there. Martin O'Neill was asked about it after the game. He said, "You must be bored to death asking. I think everybody is, to tell you the truth. The answer is that I genuinely do not know. I thought it might have been sorted out at the break. It's not been. This is Saturday night. They've got Sunday, Monday and Tuesday. Otherwise, there's a plane that goes to Rotterdam on Wednesday." So yeah, we'll see when it comes to Wednesday. Remember everyone, you can get NordVPN as well. Huge discount right now as a Celtic AM viewer or listener. Just go to nordvpn.com/Celtic AM or click the link that's in the description. I did give my thoughts on the AGM yesterday, Scott. So you get free rein to discuss it briefly if you want. We won't do this in depth, as I say, but any kind of major things on your mind after it?
I think it shows where their focus truly lies. They proved yet again that they don't see themselves accountable to anybody. I know there's been criticism about the actions that shareholders took in that meeting, but I think it's also worth noting that had the shareholders sat on their hands and said nothing, that Dermot Desmond statement was still being read out and it would have got a reaction. And I'm sure they still would have walked away because they're an unaccountable board who feels that everyone is beneath them. And particularly some of the words from a billionaire Nepo baby coming out and suggesting that it's just because we're anti-establishment fans. I think he should look back at Celtic's history where Celtic have stood up against the establishment. One is the Irish flag being flown over Celtic Park. The board made the decision, we're not taking that flag down when the FA was at them saying you have to take it down, and they said no. So he can go and play with daddy's money. Dermot can get stuffed, and that's the nice PG non-beeped version because I have a lot more words. I think there was some Mirren fan tonight near the commentary booth that used a lot of the words that I would usually use to express myself. But what they've done now and what they're trying to do is drive a big wedge between supporters. I think that's plain for everyone to see. So the support needs to unite. I think we are united. I think we're united behind the team, and it's clear who the enemy is, and that is the club board. And that's all I'll say.
Yes, Callum McGregor was giving it a bit of that. What was he mouthing after the game? Was it stick together or keep going? I think it might have been keep going. Okay, Scott, thanks for that. Appreciate it. And we'll catch up with you soon. I'll catch up with all of you soon. I'm sure there'll be plenty to discuss tomorrow. Maybe even a new manager. Probably not, though.